So, Amanda, you have also had the opportunity to travel to Brazil, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, so I went to Brazil this past November. So it was during the week of Thanksgiving here. And so basically, I went because through this kind of language learning process, I met someone who was living in São Paulo and was actually living in the same neighborhood that my company has an office in. And
Hmm.
so I'm pretty lucky in that, my job is flexible. I can work from most places. Obviously I have to be in the office from time to time to meet with clients, but for the most part, I can go to another country and I like to go into the local offices there to kind of see what types of projects people are working on and what the office culture is like. So,
Yeah.
and when my friend invited me to visit and stay with him in Brazil, I was like, oh, this is a really cool opportunity to go into the office and meet the people there and learn about what's going on and how it differs from the type of stuff that we do in Los Angeles. And so, yeah, it was really cool to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I really am interested and want to talk about the office culture in Brazil because that's something that I don't have a lot of experience. But first, what did you think about São Paulo? A lot of people kind of have a love-hate relationship with São Paulo. Did you like
Yeah,
it?
yeah, I did like it, and I was pleasantly surprised. I think prior to going to Brazil, everyone tells you how dangerous Brazil is, and and so I pretty much went like optimistic, but also kind of expecting to be robbed like at any minute. And so when I walked around, like, I wouldn't have my phone out, I wouldn't wear jewelry, like just being kind of hyper aware.
Hmm.
But at least in the neighborhoods that we stayed in, I felt like they were really comparable to any, major metropolitan city. And it didn't feel any less safe, like more or less safe than walking around downtown Los Angeles. And so I felt really comfortable and really safe where I was. And obviously every city has safe areas and unsafe areas, and I was in a pretty good area. So it was really cool. We spent a couple days at the beach. An activity that kind of surprised me is we would just walk around with beers, which is like something that, like, we would go to the grocery store and then I'd be like, what are we doing here? And he's like, oh, we're going to buy some beers. And I was like, why? So we can go back to the hotel and drink them? And he's like, oh, so we
Chug
can
some beers in the hotel room.
yeah, because here, like, there's only a couple cities in the United States where you can drink in public. And so, or like, yeah, so I was literally like, why are we buying beers? Like, why don't we just go sit at a restaurant? And then I forgot that you can walk around with a drink in your hand or walk around on the beach with it. So that was kind of fun and definitely something you wouldn't be able to do here. But yeah, I thought it was just similar but different. It was the beach culture there. Like, I think that the culture is kind of centered around the beach in certain areas.
Hmm.
And so I felt like, people just kind of go there and hang out all day. And that's kind of the activity that they do versus here. I used to live in Newport Beach in Orange County. And I don't know, I think that people kind of go to the beach for a couple hours, go do something else. It's really not something that you go and spend a whole day at. And then, yeah, even in the city part, there's areas that were kind of crowded and busy and other areas that weren't. I really enjoyed just walking around and seeing the different buildings and street art and architecture and
Yeah.
different kind of engineering aspects of it. That's probably my favorite thing to do when traveling is just take a look at, how do people get around? And when I was there, I asked my friend if we could take the metro. Because I just really wanted to see what the metro would be like. And it was honestly better than in Los Angeles. It was clean and it was just really modern looking. And I think sometimes in the United States, you kind of are brainwashed to think that we're the best, we have the best things. But going and traveling, yeah, going and traveling makes you realize that, there's a lot of other countries who have like the similar or even better systems than we do. And yeah, so I had a really great experience visiting Sao Paulo, and yeah, I thought it was a really, really cool city. I didn't have any, negative experiences there. So I'm really anxious to travel more around Brazil and see other areas, and be able to go to Rio and be able to kind of see more of the interior cities.
Yeah.
So I'm planning to do that sometime next year.
Awesome. Awesome. So I think it's really interesting. That's also something I like to do when I'm traveling is see like more normal things. Like when Alexia is in the US, she's obsessed with pharmacies like CVS, Walgreens, places that I just generally try to avoid. And she goes in, she's like, you can buy so many different things here. You can get your medicine, you can buy milk, they have vitamins. And I'm like, yeah, it's a pharmacy. But sometimes those normal things really shed a lot of light into like, huh, this place is very similar in some ways, very different in other ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I really well, because here, like Brazilian things are they're like exotic, and so they have like different Brazilian steakhouses in Los Angeles, and they have a couple different cafes that are marketed as like Brazilian cafes with Brazilian coffee, and they'll have like pão de queijo for crazy expensive, like a couple dollars for like a little bread. And so going to Brazil, like I had pão de queijo like every single day, like for breakfast, for lunch, like so I was like, oh, it's so good
It's
here by
dangerous. Yeah.
comparison. Yeah, yeah. So and then also like acai bowls are like a big thing in California. I don't know, as you know.
I'm starting to see them a lot in the Carolinas too.
Yeah, and so
They're
they're
like $9.
yeah, no, they're expensive, and because they're marketed as a health food, so of course like Los Angeles loves that kind of stuff, and there's cafes that are literally just dedicated to serving acai bowls, and they range from probably like $8 to $15, and smoothies. And so being able to go to the beach and have like a real acai was another kind of cool experience there too.
Yeah, that's awesome.